All right, BA fam, we are so excited to introduce you to this week's guest. Alfred is an award-winning podcast host. She's a speaker, a content creator. I've been a huge fan of hers for a long, long time. And my most favorite thing about Les is that she hosts one of my favorite podcasts, Balanced Black Girl. It is a chart-topping weekly podcast, and she facilitates thoughtful interviews and incredible solo episodes as well, where she just shares everything about sort of building that well-rounded life where you are living your best version of yourself. Tiffany, how do you feel about our combo with Balanced Black Girl? That was your first time meeting her.
It was, although I'm following her on social because, of course, my brain was like,
of course you are.
I don't know her. Meanwhile, I'd already liked pictures. So our conversation with Les was really awesome. And what I really love is that to be a balanced Black girl is not to have it all together. It is the journey, not the destination, which you will hear us talk about. So you're going to enjoy this episode. Zen out, chill out. If you're going for, this is perfect, about to wash the dishes, about to do laundry, about to go for a walk episode. So
do something to self-care.
Yes. Add this to your self-care today.
Now, Tiffany, I have a follow-up from the show, actually, because you talked about self-care this summer, but it was like a bunch of like traveling and about Mimi and like all the family and stuff. But like when it's just you, what are you doing to, if you're anxious about something or you're having a tough time, like what are you turning to at that moment?
I am excited because I've been dragging my feet, booked the movers to come on Friday.
Okay. We rescheduled last week, right?
Yes.
Okay. But they're finally coming.
I know, okay. They're finally coming. I was like, no, next week, next week. So I'm like, so I will officially, by the time we tape again, be in my new place. And I think that I just want to get a moment because I have not lived alone for a long time. And so I think that self-care is going to look like, I don't know, like acclimating myself emotionally, mentally, and physically to my new place. Like just spending. So every day I go there, I take a walk almost every day. And Dr. Green suggested take a walk, have lunch there, have breakfast there, start to integrate it into your life so it's not this big shock. And I think I'm going to mainly spend the summer outside of like, these 3 trips that I kind of have planned in business things, just literally almost like getting on the frequency of my new place, if that makes sense. Sitting on the couch and just looking out the window, like listening to music. Like my boo bought me a record player and I have all these amazing records and listening to records in the place, like
making
just
it a home.
Yes. And so I think that's the core thing because it's a realignment, if you will. And so outside of like the moving and shaking, I'm really looking forward to like just connecting to my place and allowing it to be like, this is home now, homifying it, if you will.
Yeah. Like nesting.
Yes.
Hanging up some art.
Yes. Oh, who came over just a couple of days ago? Kimberly, remember she's the curator for Brooklyn Museum, one of the curators.
Oh, that's right. You guys went to an art show. That is so grown and sexy. Very rich auntie.
Well, she was in Newark to visit a studio. She said, do you want to come? And this is amazing artist, Adama Delphine. And she is amazing. And as soon as I walked into her studio, which is in Newark, she's actually from Brooklyn and lives in Brooklyn. I was like, I feel like I've seen this work before. I have. This woman is like famous. I'm like, not you being a whole, she's like has stuff in the Smithsonian that I've seen in the Portrait Gallery in DC. I've seen her in Newark Newark Museum, all over. Her stuff is so famous. I was like, girl.
Oh, man.
But it was beautiful. And there's like 2 pieces I really want. I don't know. It might be too rich for my blood, but I certainly put an offer in to be like, I'd love to purchase. So that was really awesome. And then I was like, she was so awesome. I was like, do you want to come to the condo? Because Kimberly was going to come anyway to give me some suggestions about what kind of art I can fill it with. And so she came. And
really?
But that's what I mean.
Like a whole national artist, like
international. She is all over the world. And I was like, so that's the kind of thing I want to do more of this summer. Is to invite good energy, especially Black and brown women, into my home to create these amazing, beautiful memories with, so.
Well, that's nice. Well, I'm going to do, since we're talking a little bit about weekends, I have to do a shout out to my brother.
I seen Drake. I said, look at Drake on the red carpet.
Yeah. And his lady friend, who I'm like very self-conscious about not saying the wrong thing or too much things. I don't want to like step on any toes, but aren't they so cute together? So she's a filmmaker, and that's how they met. And you know, Alex has his own film production. But if you guys you heard of Tribeca Film Festival, it's this big festival that happens every summer in New York. Yeah. So her film that she produced, they won $1 million grant last year from AT&T and the film festival. I know, major, right? And they took this $1 million and they made a movie last fall, and somehow they edited it and they premiered it like within less than a year, which is like bananas to me. And I got to go to the premiere, which was really cool. There was a carpet, and it was at this really gorgeous historic theater, the Angelica Theater on 2nd Avenue in New York. Really beautiful. And the film itself, oh my God. So if you're listening, you got to write down The Color Book. The Color Book is a feature film, and it is everything that I think we all need in a film right now, but and also like nothing that you are worried it might be. So I went into this film because I knew it was about a Black father and his son who has Down syndrome. And I think I went into this movie with like a sense of foreboding. I was telling Kaya, the producer, about it. You know, just like a little bit of foreboding. You see a Black man in a vulnerable state with a child who has special needs, and it's all in black and white. The film is very quiet and heart-wrenching. And I just kept, like, I had this fear over me the whole time, like something bad is going to happen to this kid and his dad. And you know what? I don't want to spoil the movie for you, but it just got to be a really beautiful love story between a dad and his son. And I realized how poignant that was and how powerful it was. It seems like such a quiet movie about just this relationship. And at the same time, like so rare. When do we get to see that in a Black father from his perspective, just being a good dad, struggling, coping with grief, but also just being an amazing dad. And the actor who played the little boy, Mason, his name is Jeremiah. So sweet. His whole family was there. Yeah. So just shout out The Color Book. I don't know if you can see it. It was at Tribeca, so probably it'll come to theaters soon. But yeah, that's huge shout out to Kaya, who produced it. And then my brother, who directed and wrote his first short film, told me recently, actually I just found out this weekend, I was so late, he got his film accepted into the Palm Springs Film Festival.
Amazing.
Which is like not something that happens with your first ever film that you've written and directed yourself. So it's called Thomasville. It's based on my dad. Him and his family grew up in a neighborhood in Atlanta called Thomasville. And so it's a short film like that. Yeah, just calls back to my dad's upbringing and his and my uncle Mark, and just really, really, really freaking proud of my brother.
I just got chills. Oh.
Yeah, I was like so happy to get to. I don't have that many moments where I just, especially recently, where I've gotten to connect with him and just celebrate something. It's been a very stressful year in our family. So to just like be there and to celebrate and see how happy they are and how they're doing what they love, and they love each other and they're so cute and pretty. It was
Drake is gonna get you, girl.
Nice.
He said, "Not you tell him my business."
Listen, you guys just go like his. I'll tell you what, he will forgive me if you guys run to Pineapple Cut's Instagram page. That's his production company, and then you run to we'll start there. Run to his page and like follow him and leave a comment saying Brown Ambition loves y'all, and then he will forgive me. Anything
Pineapple Cuts, okay.
Pineapple Cuts Productions.
Cuts or cuts?
I don't know.
Oh my God, baby!
It's a Pineapple Cut. I think it's just with no S. Pineapple Cut.
Well,
how many Pineapple Cuts are there?
I was going to say, it can't be too many, right?
Yeah, you'll be fine. You know what he looks like, just me with less hair, okay?
He looks like Drake, child. I literally, because I saw it in your Instagram stories, and I was showing my partner, I was like, oh my God, tell me you don't like Drake. He was like,
you come up with a new thing, Tiffany. Every time it's Drake. Come on.
How can it be a new thing when that's what he looked even more like Drake than ever before. I was like, with his hair out, I was like, Alex, come on now. You're leaning into it.
I got recognized twice at that event.
Oh, okay,
and then also, I went to see Michelle Buteau's comedy show, and one of our fans. Oh, and I thought I was going to.
Kimberly was there. She was like, "Mandy was here. I would have seen her."
I got so many DMs from folks like, "I didn't know you were here. I was here too." I'm like, "Yeah, we were all out. If you were black and female and a millennial, you were at that Radio City show. It was really good." But one of our listeners, she stopped me in the line when I was getting a little drinky drink. It's like, give me the large vodka tonic, please. And well, it's always nice running into BA fam. We love you guys.
Yeah. Hey, hey, hey. We're back. We're black. We're brown. Ambition, 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 ambition. The stew is extra brown today. Okay. Because we got a guest.
Stunning today.
Yes.
Yeah, we have a guest. Welcome to the show, Les. If y'all don't know about can I call you my friend? I don't know. I feel like I text you all the time. So like, you're my friend. Les Alfred. Les Alfred. She is the award-winning podcast host of one of my actual favorite podcasts, Balanced Black Girls. And I've had to recently come up with like a list of things I can do for self-care, just as like an emergency kit. You know, I'm going through a hard time. What is it that relaxes me again? And I added Balanced Black Girl to the list because I just feel like there's always like, if it's not the most recent show, there's something in the top 10, like the next 10 that I can sort of like put on and I'll feel a little bit better about myself, or like I'll have a better perspective. So what better review for your show can there be than like, it is on the list of ways to self-soothe.
Oh my God.
Right next to like a pint of Ben and Jerry's. It's like, am I going to listen to Balanced Black Girl or am I going to like stuff my face?
Oh my gosh, that is the best compliment. I'm so honored. I mean, I'm also such a big fan of Brown Ambition and of both of you individually and together. So I'm so excited to be joining you.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's tell folks what was the origin of Balanced Black Girl, because you were coming up around the same time as us, right? What year did you launch?
I started in October of 2018 was when the show launched.
Oh, okay. So a couple of years after.
Yeah.
And then at the time, like you were working 9 to 5 up until like yesterday almost. I mean, up until really recently. So yeah. Where were you working at the time? Why the podcast? Like, when did you start making money? Tell us everything.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, the podcast wouldn't be a thing without the initial blog that I started 10 years ago. So I started a blog a decade ago that was a wellness, fitness blog. I was working in corporate, but I was also a personal trainer. I was really into nutrition and healthy recipes. And so I started blogging about that 10 years ago. And that was when I started building a following online and a little bit of a community. I mean, micro, tiny. It was not major by any means, but I started building a little bit of a community. And I got really burned out. I did that for about 4 years and I just got super burned out. I got really sick of it. I got really tired of fitness. I got tired of talking about fitness. I got tired of being in fitness spaces. And so I took a break from all of it, took a break from the internet, from creating content, from the whole thing. And while I was away, I was getting messages and emails from people who followed me and they were like, hey, Les, I know you're taking a break, but when you're not posting, I don't see other Black women or brown women posting about wellness in my feed. Like, can you come back? And I thought, okay, maybe there's a way that I can introduce my audience to other Black and brown women in wellness so that if I want to tap out, they're not just looking to me for that. And so,
okay, that's a lot of pressure for one.
A lot of pressure. Story of my life. And so by this time, it was 2018, late summer, early fall 2018. And I was working at a startup as a social media manager, making $0, which was a great experience. I'm being very sarcastic. It was traumatic.
I felt it.
A very traumatic work experience. Lots of therapy from that job. But honestly, I was just sitting at work one day and I got the idea of start a podcast, name it Balanced Black Girl, interview Black and brown women in wellness. I went on Amazon, ordered a microphone, and launched the podcast a week later and have been going ever since.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy. See? Just like Brown Ambition.
Yeah.
Let's just do this thing. All right.
That's literally what happened. They're like, you want to do a podcast? I'm like, what's a podcast? Okay.
I don't know, but I have Amazon and you trust me. So come hang.
Right.
Oh man. So wait, when you launched it, you were working at the startup. What were you doing? You said social media?
Yeah, I was a social media manager.
Okay. So do you tell at that point? Do they know that you're doing the podcast? At what point does it become a problem?
Oh, it became a problem almost like immediately. I mean, I didn't keep it a secret, but people could see it and they knew about it. And it became a problem, I would say probably about 6 months later when it started kind of doing well. And when I started getting opportunities and things started taking off, it did become a problem.
How did they articulate that it was a problem?
Ooh, I mean,
look at me being messy. I'm like,
it was pretty messy. I mean, at that time, it threw quite a bit of cattiness, which is like, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but it was a super small company. And so, I would get texts from the founder, like unhappy about what I was doing. And so stuff like that. I didn't stay in that job for much longer because it just wasn't really worth it. But yeah, it was rough. It was a rough time.
I love no boundaries. No, that is like when people talk about the startup and working for a startup, that is such a broad term. It sounds like it's very specific, but there are so many different versions of startups. And it sounds like you're at one of those ones where it's tiny and toxic.
Ooh, not the TNT, tiny and toxic.
Tiny and toxic. It's like Napoleon complex and startups. And because they're so tiny, they everything is so like, they're hyper aware of what each employee is doing. And then there's this sense of like, I need to, like, you're so anxious about the company and like what's happening that you feel like you need to control everything and everybody. And you don't get that as an employee. You don't get that freedom to just like not feel like all eyes are on you, because they're just putting so much outsized pressure. I feel spoiled because when Tiffany and I launched Brown Ambition, I was working at a big brand like Yahoo, and we could sneak around and go unnoticed. Like it wasn't a huge deal. I was just like one of a gajillion, employees with a really famous CEO at the time. And in some regard, that gave me like a little bit of a level of anonymity and like, do first, ask permission later. So I just want to acknowledge that. That's rough. Yeah. But then you got up out of there.
I did. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
did you feel?
Did you have a safety net? Like, did you have money saved, or were you just like, did you have another job?
I ended up getting another job. Yeah. So at the time I was doing some freelancing. I was doing some freelance writing, some freelance, marketing for other businesses. So I was able to do that to sustain myself for a few months. And then I ended up getting another full-time job pretty quickly after.
Okay.
What is your relationship with money in general? Like, is it something that you've like learned a lot growing up? When you launched Balanced Black Girl, were you thinking, oh, this can be a source of extra income for me because you're thinking ahead? Talk a little bit about that.
My relationship with money has always been really tricky. I've always erred on the side of being very frugal and of pinching every penny really tight because I grew up in an environment where that was not modeled, where spending even when we didn't have it was kind of the norm. And I saw the repercussions of that and it freaked me out. And so I very quickly just wanted to do the opposite of what I saw. And that was save, cheap, cheap, cheap. And I'm still working to dismantle that a bit because I think, of course, there is a time to be, very conscientious about your saving and to do these things. And there's also a time to live. And I had gotten to a point where I did start doing better financially and I was working really hard and I was still like holding on to every little thing and like forcing myself to be really small. And so I've had to do quite a bit of unlearning.
Yeah. You're in a safe space.
Yeah. A lot of unlearning.
So Mandi and I can attest, like, especially, I don't know if Mandi, if you're quite as cheap as I am or was. But
yeah, something about having kids and seeing the dollar signs that go with just the basic things like daycare. It's created a sense like I definitely spend so much more. It's easy to justify anything when you're like, oh, it's for the kids. I have a lot of understanding of people who go into bankruptcy when they have children. Like, I get it.
Yeah. So in therapy, what are some of the things that you unearthed about your financial like link? Like, for example, for me, it was a sense of unworthiness. That's what was driving me not wanting to spend. And it was like, oh, working on the feeling of, oh, you are deserving, you are worthy. That helped to unlock, my ability to look at money in a healthy way as a tool that I can use to help make my life better. But you don't have to tell us all your business, but sometimes it's good for people to know that.
No, but tell us something.
That money is not always just about money, right? There's this underlying kind of like, oh, this is the current that's underlying my choices.
I think a lot of it for me has just always been around safety and feeling like my only backup, and I mean, my life is still this way, is myself. I don't have financial support outside of myself. And it's pretty much been that way, since I was pretty young. And so feeling like if I run out or if I try something and I fail, I have no help. There's no way out of that. Not there's no way out, but like I don't have any support outside of myself for that, which is still something that I struggle with because that is still true. And so it's something that I'm constantly dismantling is, okay, I may not necessarily have external help outside of myself, but if need be, I can get creative. I'm smart. I can always make something shake. I can always make something work. Me being able to take care of myself doesn't only have to look one way.
Oh, I love that. It doesn't have to look
I
one
mean,
way.
Life is, and it only gets more stressful. The stakes get even higher, even if you're, you don't have anyone but yourself to support in a way. Like the stakes seem so much higher. The bills get more expensive, like even supporting a life now. You move from the West Coast to the East Coast, which are both, I mean, you were in LA before, right? Or around roundabouts, and now you're in New York City. It's expensive in these areas. So yeah, when did you get to the point where you're like, okay, I am ready to pick up, I'm ready to move, take the risk and go full time with Balanced Black Girl? Some people would do one of those things at a time, but you were like, no, I'll do both things at the same time. What was that like? How has it been?
Yeah.
With that transition?
So I would say me going full time into content creation was a long time coming. From the time I launched that first blog 10 years ago, that was always my intention. I did not love my corporate experience, even though I did it for 13 years. I did it out of survival. But once I learned that people could make money online, I was like, oh, I want to do that. And so that was always, my intention. And a lot of it was me kind of moving the goalpost of what would help me feel safe enough to do it. It was, when I make a certain amount, then I'll quit. When I, pay off my student loans, then I'll quit. When I this, when I that. And so I had gotten to a point where those milestones that I had set for myself, I had done it. I had, paid off my student loans. I'd reached a certain amount in savings and investments. I had, increased my earnings from my business year over year and surpassed my corporate salary for a certain number of years, where I was like, okay, this is a clear upward trajectory where I feel comfortable doing this. So it was many years coming, but it took about a decade to truly feel comfortable enough to do it.
I mean, it's a good thing you started young because you're still really young.
I'm not feeling very young.
A decade sounds so long. I know. Well, you have a big birthday. Was it a big birthday? You're turning 35?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Is that right?
You're a baby.
Oh, thank you.
I'm only 36, so I too.
You too are a baby. I just say that.
I will be 37 in 2 months though, because we're both Leos, right?
Yeah.
Is that what we discovered?
Yep.
So how do you, because I mean, it's one thing to say like Balanced Black Girl, you have so much knowledge about and you have so many great experts on your show talking about everything from like mental health to astrology to nutrition and healthy dieting and exercise and all of that. But I want to know, there's something so much more like the pressure in your 30s to be, still really hot, but like also make a lot of money. And then sort of like, if you're being single, be single the best, like be the best kind of single where you're like loving yourself and you're still having an active social life, but like your family, wrapped with having a family. And if you do have a family, it's like, you gotta be the perfect mom, blah, 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 blah. How do you help us? Like, how do you help yourself even get to a point where you can like accept where you are? And how do you balance that with like wanting to be, sometimes it's okay to be like a better version of yourself or do things a little bit better?
Yeah. For a long time, I was super goal oriented and I was very focused on all of these external achievements of if I make a certain amount of money or pay off my debt or have a certain amount of listeners or a certain number of followers. I was doing those things because I thought that people would respect me more. I thought that it would mean that I was just, this great, disciplined or whatever successful person. And I am in a different place now where it's not that I don't necessarily want those things, but it's almost a sense of curiosity of like, I wonder if I could do that. If I launched this business, how will it go? Like, let me just try it. Let me kind of do it for the plot a little bit and have
I
as
love
many
that. Do it for the plot.
experiences. Yeah. I'm like, let me just have as many experiences as possible. Like moving to New York, sure. Why not? Sure, let me try it and see what happens. And that has been really freeing for me because I feel like I am still growing as a person, but there's not necessarily this pressure to do it in a certain way or by a certain time. It's like, my vibe right now is living life. There's like a Kourtney Kardashian meme where she says that I've been sharing a lot. And every time somebody asks me, like, what are your intrinsic goals? What is your purpose in this lifetime? I troll them and I'm like, my vibe right now is living life. Like,
I love it. My vibe.
I'm just here. I'm just curious to see if I can, I just want to see, like, if I try something, if I apply myself to it, will it work out? And if it doesn't, that's okay. Then I'll do something else. But I think right now I'm just in such a place of exploration. And I do think that for women, there is a lot of pressure around things like, having children and having a certain family life. And I mean, maybe this is going to sound really bad, but I've kind of, not to say given up on that, but I have accepted that if that is going to happen, then it will happen. And if it does not happen, that I can find so many other sources of joy and fulfillment outside of it. And that has also relieved a lot of pressure and made my life a little bit more enjoyable than feeling like I need to be on the hunt for these things.
I'm curious, why were you a little self-conscious of saying that? Or like you said, it could sound bad.
Because I think oftentimes people go to the internet and they listen to conversations like this to help them validate their choices. And so I think if somebody has made different choices than what I have made, then me talking about how I've done something different can make them feel self-conscious about their choices. Or if someone is maybe in a similar position to me, but maybe they feel bad about it. Like maybe they're in their mid-30s as well and they, are single and don't have kids, but they so want that. I don't ever want anybody to feel a certain way just because I'm making different choices. So I like to have those disclaimers of like, I'm not here to validate or invalidate anyone's experience. I'm just here to share what my experience has been so far. And who knows, something could be totally different. I could walk outside and like meet my husband this afternoon and have a baby in a year. I don't know. I'm doing it all for the plot. We'll see.
And also too, I think sometimes the way people dangle marriage and like family as if it will fix all the things. That's how it's like, I mean, as somebody who was happily married, but like, like if you don't like, this is what like, every man with a microphone and the red pill, that it's like, you don't get married, you don't have kids, you're going to die alone with a cat. I'm like, what's wrong with cats? I like cats. Right. But that's the sense that like, that you do it because for the desired outcome, which is at least you'll have someone to take care of you. And I'm just saying that that's not the reason to get like, like the fear of like, well, what will it look like when I'm 80? That's not the reason to ideally partner because there's no guarantee that your partner, my husband passed. There's no guarantee. So you can have all the things. You can be like, oh my gosh, I found this person. They're so great. There's no guarantee at the end that it's going to look like that. And so that's why ideally, you partner because that's the right partner for you, that, so I always think that when I tell like young women that I talk to, I'm just like, you can have all the great things. You can have the best partner. All the things are in line and still, so it's just best to just choose from a place of this is what's right for me, because, or, I mean, there's just so many ways that life twists and turns and, always trying your best to live in alignment is really the only way you can kind of look up and say, so glad I made that choice,
Yes.
I wanted to stand up if I wasn't like, I'm not actually wearing like proper attire on my lower half right now. I'm not going to lie. Very short shorts on, but like I would stand up and turn around. But we post on YouTube, so I'm not going to do that. But when you said Les, like, I just wanted to capture that because it's so crucial. And I think because you are a content creator and you are an influencer, you have a podcast, people do. And I think Tiffany and I too, people turn to us for advice and guidance and all of that. But it's almost like you really care about the list. Not almost like you definitely care about your listener. You care about how you're coming across, not in a way that makes you self-conscious, but that makes you like almost like just protective of your audience. And I think it's really fucking wise. Like if you guys were listening, what you said about how when you're listening to someone's story, it doesn't have to like that doesn't have to be the way that you validate your own feelings, your own desires. And I think we are in such a culture now where you want, like, you live in an echo chamber and you collect voices that sort of like echo what it is that you want to hear, what you want for your life. And it's like always, validating, but it's okay for us to sit with people and hear their stories and experiences and not have to like judge it against ourselves, but just sit with it and be like, oh, that's a story. That's that person's story. And how about that? Like, I wish we would just bring back that like Midwestern saying my grandma always say, how about that? Or like the Southern, like, bless her heart, like that kind of thing, like we just either we're like, we can't be present with someone when they're speaking because either we're comparing ourselves to them or we're judging them so harshly for the decisions that they've made. And like, if that wasn't an advertisement for Balanced Black Girl, I don't know what is, because it's such like that little, if people could just get that switch where you can just like be okay listening to someone else and not need them to validate yourself, then you'd be so much happier.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
Oh, I really, yeah. No,
validate me. I just
you
validate me.
No, Mandy, I think you just articulated so much better my intention. That's exactly it. So thank you. I received that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about, okay, so we are 30, you're turning 35, you got a big birthday coming up, and you have posted about this. What's on your list of, what are you calling it? Like 35 dirty,
35 hotter.
Why did I say 35 dirty?
Because they say dirty 30.
Dirty 30.
I'm like glitching. All right, go ahead. 35 hotter. What does that look like for you?
So I, over the past probably like year or so, and maybe this is, I'm noticing, I'm having a realization right now. I'm having an epiphany with you two. Ooh. I think there's something in my brain about ages that end in 5, because when I was 24,
you're not alone.
25, for some, it messed with my head. I had this whole thing around turning 25, and I made this list. I called it the 25 by 25 of 25 things I wanted to do by my 25th birthday to get me out of a funk. And I'm realizing, I think this is like the next iteration of that, because I'm not doing 35. 35 things is a lot of things. I'm not making a list of 35 things to do. But I was feeling this complex around turning 35, even more so than I felt around turning 30. I was pretty indifferent about 30, actually. And I just wanted to, instead of feeling all this anxiety around what I, quote unquote, haven't done in my life, I want to walk into 35 feeling the best that I've ever felt mentally, physically, emotionally. And so a lot of the things that I'm focusing on currently are like going back to therapy just for maintenance, not because it's like 911, something's wrong. In the past, I would go to therapy if I was having like really bad anxiety, or if I was, experienced someone passing and was in the depth of grief. But I'm having my first experience going to therapy just to like process
a little touch up
old stuff. Yeah. Just stuff that I've been carrying, from my teens and 20s. And I'm like, I just don't want to take this into the next chapter. So it's almost nice to be in therapy without the alarm bells going off. Changing up fitness, because my relationship to fitness has changed a lot. Fitness is a big part of my story, but a lot of what I did in my 20s just doesn't make sense now, because I'm in a totally different place in my life. My body needs different things as I get older. I just don't need to be jumping around doing all the burpees and crazy stuff that I was doing 10 years ago. It just does not serve me.
My knees are like, burpee who?
Exactly. Oh my gosh. No, I walked the whole borough of Manhattan on Saturday.
Okay.
And
oh, wow. Okay.
I got to about Chelsea. And I was like, I'm feeling real over 30 right now, my knees and my hips. And I was like, oh, this is an adventure. But
did you do the round trip, or you just went like
no,
north
we
to
just
south?
started from the top and went to the bottom.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Is it? No, I don't know.
It was fun. It was long. I don't know if I need to do it again, but it was fun. It was a fun way to see the city as like a new person here. But yeah, the 35 hotter is just me being really intentional about the months leading up to my 35th birthday, pouring into myself and feeling as good as I can feel entering, the second half of my 30s.
How do you know? Because for me, sometimes that can get stressful setting that kind of goal. How do you know when you get there that you did it?
Well, we'll see how I feel when I wake up on my birthday.
Yeah, you're going to be like, wow, okay.
Yeah, having the date of the deadline helps.
I guess so.
But yeah, I also think the process, it's like the process of it has felt really good. I've actually enjoyed the things that I've been doing. Like I've been more intentional about taking more steps each day or trying new workout classes, going back to therapy, doing those things. I've actually felt really good also during that. I think like, that's the point, you know, what is it like the journey is the destination.
Yeah. I just said that this
thing.
morning. I love that.
Yeah.
How do
I
you
keep thinking about,
go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead, Tiff.
No, I was going to say, because this comes up a lot lately, especially for young Black women that I've been mentoring, of teaching them to ask for help. What does it look like when you ask for help? Like, how do you reach out and you're like, can't quite do this? Are you a good help asker, or is it something that you kind of have to like hit the wall before you do?
It depends. You know, I've been in a position where I have been the first in a lot of ways. I've been the first, you know, woman in my lineage who was not a teen mom, first, you know, generation college graduate, first corporate person, now first full-time entrepreneur. And, you know, I had a lot of friends who have podcasts now, but they didn't back when I was starting. It's like I'm in so many areas where I am the first, and the people around me, as incredible and as well-intentioned as they are, they just don't have it to help me. They don't have it. They either don't have the resources, they don't have the knowledge. It's like they don't know. And so when I ask for help, just get met with a lot of like, well, I don't know, or like, I'm sorry, there's not a whole lot I can do. That has been what asking for help has looked like for me my whole life. So still a work in progress. It's hard.
Well, I mean, are you saying that in the sense that like, have you had to build, you know, your circle? I think as your life goes in different directions, just has to expand and include more people to lift you up and to feel supportive and in that way. And like, I can give an example when we were a lot of people were losing their minds about some algorithm change with iTunes and how that impacts, or Apple, and how that impacts podcast numbers. They were worried about that last year. Well, I was in the throes of like postpartum, like joy. I was just like loving my baby, and then whatever, life was lifing. And then I woke up in 2024 and I'm like, what the hell has happened here? What's going on? And I texted you last year, one of the few people I texted, because like when, you know, the past couple of years, I've just tried to add more voices who do know what I'm going through, so that I can turn to someone and like get a little bit of support in those moments. Have you find that you've, something that you've struggled with, or like, you know, when I say it like that, do you think that it's something that you're thinking about more?
Yeah, it is definitely something I'm thinking about more, but I can't say that I've been able to fully grasp it, or that I feel like I've built that type of community where I would feel, quite yet. It's like a work in progress. That's what I'm working on, but haven't yet figured it out.
What do you feel like is it like the fear of, what do you, is it something that you're afraid of? Like that people won't be supportive, or that they'll judge you if you ask certain things?
No, I just feel like the people who like could be helpful, I'm like, they're too busy.
Okay.
I don't want to bug them. People have lives. They have children. Me, I'm just like vibing out by myself. It's like I have all the time in the world for people to ask me stuff, but I'm like, everybody else, like they have partners, they have kids, they have real life stuff going on. They're busy.
Not
I
too
can't
busy
bug
for
them.
That's what you're telling yourself before you text.
That's the story. But I don't like as Dr. Green, my therapist, say, is that
That's
true?
not reality.
So she'll say, is that true? And even if it's like one part, it might be true that people are busy, but is that the only truth available? People are busy, but not so busy that they would not be there for you. So it's like those two things can exist.
Oh, okay.
You know, and even just hearing when you just said you're the first to not be a teen mom, first to go to college, you sound like a friend of mine who's a bit of a survivalist. She survived this environment that she was not meant to survive. And so oftentimes survivalists are like these rugged individuals. And so it's very difficult for a rugged individual because it's like that environment, it was not conducive for me to get out. I had to figure it out. And so you take that, I have to figure it out with you into adulthood. I've seen it in her because I'm like, girl, you're not out here by yourself. And she's just like, but that's the thing that brought her out of that space, was to learn to lean on herself and see it through. And so she's working through in therapy now how to like open herself up that there are people that will show up for you. We know that was true, but that's not necessarily true now. You know, you actually don't, because it's not possible really to go through life successfully all by yourself. That like there are people you can trust. there are people you can lean on. Yes, people are busy, but not so busy that they can't lean on and love on you, because that's just how, that's how it goes. It's like, imagine, Mandy's got beautiful Rio, and imagine Remy comes along. She's like, sorry, sir, we tapped out over here. No, what happens with love is expansive. That when you add someone else, you actually grow to capacity to absorb them in. Like, ask any parent. It wasn't like Mandy was like, well, I don't know about this second baby. No.
Words in my mouth. You don't have it. No, okay.
You know what I mean? That instead, literally, her capacity to love just expanded. And so I just hope that you take that with you, that there are people who would love on you, care for you, look after you, that even though they are busy, because you're a part of their life, they will expand to their capacity to welcome you in, that you're not out here by yourself,
Yeah.
People who have kids wish someone would call us who's not a doctor or a daycare or a fucking teacher saying you forgot their water bottle again. I would love making friends in your 30s is so crucial. And I have had to I'm one of my best friends now that I met a couple of years ago. I literally just saw her in a parking lot and I rolled my window. I've told the story before. Roll my window down and just be my friend, please. Because she's the only other Black mom. And I'll give you a second just to respond to what Tiffany said last, because I'm curious how that hit for you.
No, I do. It does hit a lot. And I think that in so many ways, that's what I want. And I think a lot of something that I'm also working on in therapy, and it has changed how I've showed up in my work a little bit, is that a lot of my relationships that I did have were very dependent on people needing me and feeling like, oh, I have to do, I have to be everybody's big sister and always have the answer in order for people to find value in me. And I do think some of my relationships have reflected that. So a lot of it is me establishing new bonds with people that aren't dependent on that. And I do think that being in new cities and new spaces has definitely helped.
Okay.
And so now as I'm going about building community here, that it's looking and feeling a little bit different.
I love that. Just I tell Mandy sometimes, I'm like, Mandy, girl, I love you because I love you.
Yeah.
No, and not someone I need to hear that, because I am very similar in the sense that if I don't feel like I have a purpose for someone, I'm so when are they going to realize there's not much to hang out for? I'm not that interesting, which is a very disordered way of thinking, and it's not healthy. I would not recommend. 0 out of 10. But also finding being vulnerable enough to tell the people in your community. I had to be a big girl this year and tell people like Tiffany and good friends of mine what I need. I actually really love having conversations and having phone calls and checking in on me and spending some time. I actually am struggling and I really need that. Could you help me with that need? And it's just so it's so uncomfortable sometimes to be the person who's asking for that of someone else. But the only for me, the other side of that was well, what else? I'm going to just be in a deep depression all the time because I'm just this shriveled up little just starved being who's not being poured into. And listen, I love a good hot bath and going for a nature walk and putting on less on my on my headphones to take care, but community and sisterhood and being seen by another human being. I mean, biology wins every time. We're humans, and that's just what it's about, right? It's that connection. But it does get more challenging the older you get to put yourself out there and admit that you need it.
It's hard because you see kids make friends at the park. They're like, "Hi, that's your ball? Yeah, I'm gonna play. Yeah." And then you're friends. I know. And then they're like, "That's my bestie." I'm like, "Ooh, what's her name?" I can't catch that. I'm just I wish it was so easy for adults. Hi, you seem cool. Thanks. You want to play? Okay.
What's on the list? So you're 35 in a new city, almost 35, sorry, 34.9 in a brand new city. How are you making friends and new connections here? Did you have any like baseline? Did you know anybody in New York first?
I did. I knew a few people here. And then honestly, the main way that I've been meeting people is just events. Thankfully, because of work, I get invited to a lot of events, whether that's creator events or getting invited to speak places. And so usually when I go to events, my goal is always to connect and exchange information with one new person, which
That's
also,
awesome.
as an introvert, just feels a lot less overwhelming.
Oh, yes.
And so with that,
I love
that has been my strategy, and it's been helpful so far.
I love that.
Oh, that's such a great, especially for introverts, like just one person.
Yeah.
It's okay to just talk to one
Yes.
person.
Yeah.
I'm very much in the bathroom, girl. Love your shoes. That's like my favorite.
Yes.
Like when I'm trying to break that, I'll be in the bathroom, because the bathroom is just like the great equalizer. You're just washing your hands after you went to the bathroom. Oh my God, girl, I love your shoes,
Yes.
or whatever. And then afterwards, you might make eye contact, and then you start chatting, so that's like a good icebreaker for me. Like, love your shoes or your curls popping or whatever. Like,
Yes.
but typically, because I'm shyer than people think. And so like, that's kind of like a little, like, I'm like, when I go to the bathroom, wash my hands, I'm sure there's going to be some beautiful brown woman in there. I'll be able to compliment her. We'll lock eyes across the room, and then I'll be able to chit chat and then ease my nervousness.
Do you feel that
Such a
sense?
good
Like when I
strategy.
see another woman of color, I just feel so at home. Like I have gotten so much more reliant on this. I think there's like this fatigue of being in corporate where you're just so starved of having other people who kind of get you. And it's just something I look for in every room I go in now. I'm like, where are my people? And maybe it's like a little, but I've just chosen to be optimistic. I'm just like, if there's a woman of color in the room, we are going to be friends. We're going to chat. It's going to be a relaxing space. I went to the pool in one of my good friends invited us to the pool, and like I live in Westchester, which is like, outside of Manhattan and all that, where the old suburban ladies go to live and die. And anyway, the pool was like so not diverse. It was just like full of we were like the only people of color there. Not only that, but like body type wise, I was like I stood out like a sore thumb, I realized. And like I'm someone who like once you have a kid, you don't get to be self-conscious about getting in a pool. You just gotta get in that water, because I'm not about to ruin his summer because I don't like the way that I look. But it was such a deeply uncomfortable like afternoon for me that when I got home and I was journaling, I was like, that did not feel good. I don't think I want to go back to that place where, I'm just like sticking out in that way. And it's, yeah, like, what would you say to someone when they're feeling like that, Les? Because in my mind, I'm like, trust your anxiety a little bit in this situation.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so I grew up in Seattle, and I lived there my entire life up until age 30. And it was like, I couldn't go anywhere without that feeling when I was still there. It was just like, like I do not belong here. There is this coldness. There's just this discomfort. And I do feel like that is your intuition telling you something. And yes, I have picked up and moved a few times, and I don't think everybody necessarily needs to do that. But I do think that understanding, when you don't necessarily feel comfortable, or when something doesn't feel like your happy place, that's important information. But it's also good to know, okay, well, what would be your happy place? What would help you feel more comfortable? And get specific about that so that we can seek out the spaces that we do feel better in.
Not that pool, not never again. So summer is upon us. How are you guys taking care of yourselves this summer? Tiffany, I want to hear. Have you thought it through? Miss travel everywhere and do everything?
Well, my aim for the summer is there's like, a few, I'm like learning from like kids are like the best like teachers. So my niece and nephew, they kind of dictate. They're like, Auntie, are we going to do the beach house again? So for the last 4 or 5 summers, I've rented a house down New Jersey, like the shore, which is great because it's fairly inexpensive for how many people you could pack in there. In the last 2 years, I've done like 3 groups of people. So like my neighbors who I'm really close with, they come for the first few days. Then my sisters and kids come for the last few days. And then the last few days I used to spend by myself. But now that I'm dating someone, He's coming the last few days. I know. He's going to be so geek. He got mentioned. See, there you go.
You said that on the show before?
I know. No, I have not. But now, hey, see, there
okay,
you go.
Fine. We'll make a big deal about it. We won't make a big deal about it.
Because he listens. He's going to be like, she said it. So it's happening.
Well, that's how he knows he likes
I
you.
know. So that's been great. So I'm like, okay, the beach. And then I have a sister that lives in Chicago that we don't get to see as much. I have four sisters. And so we're going to make our way to Chicago, likely in August. And then I promised Amelia, my niece that lives in New Jersey, that we would go to the White House because she was like, I saw you went to the White House. And because we went to Washington, D.C. with them, but she wasn't allowed to go to the White House. And she was like, why? I said, you can't just go and see the president. She's like, you did. I said, you know what? She ain't wrong. So I reached out to like the liaison at the White House. They're like, yeah, let us know. We'll do a tour for you. And she was like I thought. She's 6 going on 45. And so those are like, so I'm planning. I'm trying my best to release my inner younger Tiffany by planning my summer the way a little kid would, which is connection, excitement. And so far, those are like my 3 quote unquote trips. And I have some business trips kind of flowing in, but I'm really looking forward to this summer. I want to spend as much time with family and friends as possible. That's just what it looks like. I'm moving into my new condo soon. And I want to have like a housewarming. And so, yeah, I'm just like, what other things can I do to create connection? So that's my summer.
I love it.
Love that. Play outside till the streetlights come home.
Exactly.
And really serotonin boost.
Yes.
I'd be out there to watch Rio. I'm playing soccer. I'm like, okay, why haven't I kicked a ball? This is fun.
Yes.
Up and down the asphalt. Like, yeah,
yes.
It's fun. All right, Les, what about you? I know we talked a little bit about Dirty 35. 35 taught her. But tell me.
Yes, I honestly, I'm on a similar wave as Tiffany. I realized that I have not had what I would consider a fun summer since about 2018 of just spending time outside, spending time with friends, being enjoyed, going out, maybe a little bit of a hot girl summer. I just have not, done that in several years. And so that's my intention for this year, is to just have fun and enjoy my first summer in New York. And so, it's going to be a little more like unserious than I think I am the rest of the year, and exploring the city. Like things like walking Manhattan were part of my, summer bucket list of like doing all the things, seeing the sights, seeing the parks, going to the parties. From a work standpoint, I'm actually going to be doing a summer of solo episodes. So I'm not going to be having any guests on the podcast over the summer, honestly, just because I want to have a little bit more of a relaxed schedule. And so, with booking guests and all of that, it just gets a little bit more stressful just with bringing people into the fold. And so I'm just taking a break, and it's just going to be me recording when I want to record and making it easy.
Yes.
Yay. As a listener, I'm like, yay.
Thank you.
You don't have to have a guest all the time.
Yes. Yeah. And so I'm excited for that. I'm excited for a more relaxed summer, a fun summer. I traveled so much last year that I kind of burned myself out on travel. So I don't have any trips planned currently, and I'm just going to be in the city enjoying.
The city is a whole, there's like 15 countries in that city, right?
It is, especially for my first summer. I'm going to have my version of like a hot girl summer. And I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. The city will have you,
girl.
It will have you really like being like, I need a break from outside sometimes because there's so much to do and so much to see.
Yes.
That sounds fun. I'm like, yeah, summer fun. Hell yeah. I don't think I ever had more fun in New York than the summer I got let go from my job, and I had like unemployment for a few months, and I just like benefits, I got a little check early when that could like buy stuff. And I had so much fun. Yeah. I just like volunteered. I biked everywhere. It was great. All right. So for me, this is a summer of, it sounds like a lot of work, but I've kind of told myself I'm getting a diploma in my own mental health, because I have done therapy, and I've done that for so long, but like I'm doing some group therapy for the first time in 2 different groups now. I'm in a CBT for anxiety group therapy. And then I also have a group for dialectical therapy, which I'm in, which sounds so much, but actually it's just about right. I love it. Like I'm loving being in a group setting, a small group where we are like, not just kind of talk therapy, but we're actually like, so how are we coping? And like, that's why I talked about like basically putting your podcast on a list of ways to soothe me when I'm, feeling anxious, and just do something that makes me feel a little bit better. So that's a big thing. And then I'm not going to put pressure on as like I can just achieve it this summer, but I was listening to Balanced Black Girl Less again, as I do. And did I text you about this? You had a dietitian, Kulina Health founder on your
Vanessa?
show.
Yeah.
Vanessa. It was the same week where I had just had my first meeting with a nutritionist. And I found her through my insurance, and like, it was fine, but it wasn't like really clicking for me. But because of that episode, I went and looked up Kulina, and then I filled out their long sort of like entry form. And now I have a whole dietitian, and I've been seeing her for, I think this is the 5th week coming up. And really the key for me was like, this is now an ad for Kulina. That's fine. Is that you can find a nutritionist who specializes in like your dysfunction with food. And so my dysfunction is around anxiety induced eating and like soothing with food. And this dietitian, it has been already like really like the first time I'm thinking so differently about my relationship with food, and it has nothing to do with dieting and exercise. And it's really been an eye-opening experience. And I have, Balanced Black Girl to thank for connecting me with that nutritionist company. So those are the two things. I'm just like wellness, but like in my mind, trying to heal some of this crap that I have going on. And then just like building better skills so I can cope with the muchness of life and the plot. The plot sometimes is a little too, it's like giving like Stephen King over here. And I'm hoping for like more, I don't know, like more of a Nicholas Sparks kind of plot. Like I'm like that for my life right now.
Hey, Mandi, I love that. I'm so glad that you were able to meet with a dietitian from Kulina and that it's been helpful.
Yeah, they're great. I mean, 10 out of 10. Awesome. And it's virtual, and my insurance covers 50 sessions.
Really?
I was like, cool.
Amazing.
Everyone, yes. That's one of the things she talked about, was how people don't think that their insurance will cover it. But yeah, 50 sessions. I don't even have a copay.
And
I'm just like,
is this your personal insurance or through your business insurance? Is this like through your husband, Mandy's insurance?
Oh, yeah. Okay. I have my husband's insurance. Yes. Shout out to the government. You're good for something.
Not shout out to the government.
Health insurance. Yes, it's nice.
Okay.
All right, Les. Should we wrap up there? I need like final thoughts. Where can we find y'all? Where can people connect?
Yes. Okay, wait. One more thing I was going to say about your mental health excursion, Mandi, that I love is that sometimes just talk therapy, one-on-one talking to a therapist can be great. And I do think a lot of us reach a point where we're like, do you got anything stronger? Like, I know exactly what happened when I was 7 that makes me do X, Y, Z. What am I going to do about it? And so similarly, in my go round of therapy this time around, I am with a therapist who specializes in EMDR and somatic practices. So like helping you process it. Yes. And work through traumatic experiences.
Yeah.
So also just want to say that for people, like if just talking, if you feel like you've made progress with just talking, but you need something else, there's so many other forms of therapies out there. So don't be afraid to seek those out.
Yeah, that helped a lot.
Skills-based therapy.
I was stuck. Yes. And then my therapist, she actually does do that because she's a trauma-based therapist. And so I was like, what? And I was like, this is dumb because this is what I was like, oh, damn. Because on the surface, it feels very woo-woo. Yeah. But I mean, we unlocked. Okay. I was like, wow. Yeah. Well, that was powerful.
Yes.
It's like when people ask us, like Tiffany, when we do shows and it's like above the 401k, like the 401k is the most basic form of investing in retirement savings. And we're like, no, let's get to some real, like, how do people really make money?
Yes.
Like, how are we really impacting our mental health? And I truly believe it's that like more nuanced, skills-based, like niche down form of therapy.
Yes.
I'm so glad that people are like, I think the pandemic played a big role in that. Like these virtual versions of therapy, people are getting much more like aware of it and using it. But I think a lot of people will need that next level and need to know where to go from them. So I'm really where to go from there. So I'm glad that you brought up, is it EMDR?
Yeah.
EDM? Okay. Yeah. Awesome. And I brought up dialectical behavioral therapy, and I had not heard of that ever, but highly recommend. 10 out of 10.
I just love that therapy has just become commonplace for brown people.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That just wasn't the case. That people are like, oh, my therapist. No, it's become, because I mean, I mean, almost everyone who I talk to, they're like, my therapist said, oh yeah, I'm open to therapy. Whereas before it's like, you need Jesus, you know?
Oh yeah.
Which, you
Pray on
know,
it.
yeah. Or because even pastors and things, I'm seeing them say that, yes, certainly pray on it, but therapy is also a tool. And I'm like, okay, I love
Yes.
that it's just becoming not this like this scary woo woo, like, you know, if you prayed, you wouldn't need it thing. And so because we need it, especially if you are a Black or brown person living in the US of A, child, Lord knows there's just trauma in just your birth. So just you need therapy.
Yes.
So
Yes, ma'am.
with that, ask for help, y'all. Thank you, Les, for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. Oh my gosh, I had such a good time talking to the two of you.
Good. I feel calmer already.
Yes.
Good.
All right, you guys, go follow, subscribe, leave a review for Balanced Black Girl, and you can follow, I'll do your promo for you. You can follow Les on Instagram at Balanced Les. You can see her incredible new cover art for her podcast when she relaunched with Dear Media. And yeah, can't say enough great things about you, Les. Thanks for joining the show.
Thank you so much.
I'm following right now. Hey, BA fam. We're on YouTube. Woohoo! Thank you so much for watching. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel.
And while you're at it, why don't you go over to that little bell icon and just tap that for us. Show the BA fam how much you love us. And that way you'll also get notifications when new videos drop. Also, share the channel with a friend. We're always like, tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend. And thank y'all so much again for all the support.